Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was a revolutionary title that put skateboarding into the hands of hundreds of thousands of people around the world. For years, when you were talking about Tony Hawk, most people thought of the video games and not the legendary skateboarder. In the fall of 2003, Tony Hawk's Underground, or Thug for short, was released, and with it came the first Tony Hawk game to feature a story mode. Thug and its sequel Thug 2 were both praised as high-quality installments of the Tony Hawk franchise. And while for some, doing the tricks and combos can be difficult enough, there are a select few who try and play as fast as possible. Today, we will be focusing on the Thug speedrunning community and the history of its most popular category, Beginner Any Percent. One of the core mechanic changes in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 and Thug was the ability to free roam as opposed to the traditional 2-minute time sessions from the previous installments. One of the key differences between THPS 4 and Thug, though, is the ability to view goals as an option in the pause menu. In THPS 4, the only way to start a goal was to manually skate over to each pedestrian to start the objective. In Thug, you can access all the available goals for the stage you're in one convenient menu. When you select a goal, it teleports you to where the pedestrian is and automatically starts the challenge for you. This is a fundamental speed tech for any percent in Tony Hawk's Underground. While this is the fastest way to clear each stage, there is another category focused around creating routes between each goal, using out-of-bounds warps to get closer to pedestrians, and utilizing precise movement as opposed to the traditional method of warping. This style of run culminated in no warp categories, and would be some of the most popular categories before emphasis shifted towards Beginner Any Percent. As far as movement goes, generally speaking, comboing helps build momentum. Your overall speed is higher when your special meter is full, and grinding helps maintain your speed as well. Getting off your skateboard is a great way to stop momentum. Getting off the skateboard also has the added benefit of letting you climb up on ledges, as well as temporarily allowing you to continue your combo within the small time period. Manualing is pretty slow, but almost anything is faster than just riding your skateboard from place to place. There are 8 story mode levels that must be completed to beat the game: New Jersey, Manhattan, Tampa, San Diego, Hawaii, Vancouver, Slam City Jam, and Moscow. Once these stages are completed, the player must complete the Pro Skater video, which features a variety of challenges across the aforementioned stages. At the end of the game, you return to New Jersey to challenge your former best friend and current rival, Eric Sparrow, to a final showdown. Shred his line and meet him on the finish line, and you'll have beaten Tony Hawk's Underground. As a brief aside, there is also a New Game Plus, and when the player reaches the last portion of the game, instead of completing the final mission, the player instead just knocks Eric out and the game ends. While this is technically faster, and many of the early speedruns for Thug are played on New Game Plus, these categories fell out of favor with the community, and it's not really a category anyone keeps track of anymore. With that out of the way, let's get started. Before 2013, most Tony Hawk games have little to no speedrun activity. It seems that the forum and online communities were more focused on comboing and improv than they were on full game speedruns. In the case of Thug, Nonsense88 does a few runs of Sick Any Percent back in 2008, George also does a Sick Any Percent run in 2010, and Chrono does a few beginner runs in 2012. The only recorded runs out of all of these are the Sick runs by Nonsense88 back in 2008. I would thank Nonsense for their diligent record keeping, but one of the 2 recorded runs was uploaded at 8 times speed, so it's essentially impossible to watch or analyze without getting dizzy. For some reason, however, 2013 would bring in several Tony Hawk speedrunners who would bounce around from one game to the next. More on that later. Back to beginner any percent. The first known runs for beginner any percent come from Chrono in 2012. Again, no footage of these runs exists today, but it was said that he had a time of 57:23 on August 26, 2012. Additionally, it was played in New Game Plus, skipping the end mission of the game. In 2013, another runner named Piotr's would get a 42:39, also in New Game Plus. Piotr's is known for running many other Tony Hawk games, such as Thug 2, American Wasteland, THPS 4, and Proving Ground. We won't focus too much on those runs, but it's worth mentioning that the community was active, even if there weren't runs in the category we're about to cover. The first runner to record a time in beginner any percent would be Silent Laws, with a 40:33 on April 6, 2014. While that video no longer exists today, this was the first run in this category and was a decent improvement over Piotr's 42:39, despite not being in New Game Plus. A little less than a month later, he would lower his time to 40:04 on May 5th. With a couple improvements, Silent Laws would lower his time down to a 39:47 on August 25th.
Oh my fucking god! Oh! I just got fucking sub 40. Holy shit! Ah! Oh my god.
And finally, to a 39:38 on September 5th. With the aid of warping between goals and optimizing movement in the route, Silent Laws would be able to get a pretty decent time for himself. We won't go too in-depth into these runs either. There are no major tricks or time saves, and while they are certainly not casual gameplay, they do not exhibit many of the elements that are present in the modern run. With 2014 coming to a close, Silent Laws remained the world record holder, and all was relatively quiet for beginner any percent. Normal and beginner no warp became the hot categories, and Silent would focus on that and other categories for a while instead.
Really, for me, it was, okay, I want to be the best Thug 1 runner. Well, who is the best Thug 1 runner right now? Well, the guy at the top of the normal no warp hill, the main category that everybody cares about at this time in 2014, the guy at the top of the hill is Piotr's. So, to be the best, I gotta beat the best, and the best right now is Piotr's, so I gotta take him down. Yeah, and like beginner any percent, normal any percent, it was just too easy. Like my first run, oh, world record. Oh, this one's another world record. Oh, it's like, you know, I mean, obviously it's not like that anymore unless you're rushy. But you know, it's just like, where's the challenge? I want a challenge. I want to compete with someone. So that's the motivation I had for normal no warp running.
Between August 2014 and May 2015, a lot of runners began to grind out the no warp categories, including Piotr's, Silent Laws, Yib, and TK Mala. These runners had experience in many other Tony Hawk Speed games and would start the process of optimization for Thug. Routes and goals were tested, glitches were found, records were broken. The respective categories were improved and pushed, but beginner 80% sat dormant, waiting for its time in the limelight again. But none of these runners mentioned would push beginner 80%. No, it would be a new challenger who would dare to improve the game's fastest category. We've talked about it before. Every speed game, no matter how big or small, has a runner who just dominates the leaderboard. Someone who climbs to the summit and has no interest in leaving. Meet ThePackall. Get used to that name because you're about to hear it a lot. At least it's fun to say. ThePackall. 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 The first major trick ThePackall shows off in his run is a trick called Drug Dealer Retry Glitch. This one is pretty easy and anyone can do it. The goal is to retrieve the skateboarding gear that the drug dealer stole from Peralta's skate shop. Usually, you have to do this without your skateboard, because why would you want your skateboard in a Tony Hawk game? Off to the left is Johnny Turbo's car. If you jump in his car and then retry the goal, you'll suddenly have your board back and be able to complete the goal much faster than on foot. The next trick ThePackall brought out was a glitch that was named Butt Slaps by the online community. Don't ask me why it's called butt slapping. Essentially, from Thug onward, there was a mechanical bug that flew under the radar that appeared in largely the same form in every Tony Hawk game until Proving Ground. Here's how it works. If you hold Ollie when you go airborne, quickly do a trick, and then spam Ollie during the first half a second or so of the jump, you can stack multiple Ollies together, giving your skater some serious height and hang time. This has many applications in the speedrun, helping you get to hard to reach areas and extend your combos. While this trick was known about in the larger Tony Hawk community, it wouldn't see widespread use in speedruns until late 2014 during the no warp craze. Using these butt slaps, ThePackall did a skip called Bridge Skip. With the player character and Eric trying to get out of New Jersey, they need to get to the train station on the other side of the bridge. Usually, the way you go about this is to skitch Johnny Turbo's car, gaining momentum and launching across the bridge. It's possible to skip skitchin' Johnny Turbo and get over the bridge with some combo momentum and a few butt slaps. On May 13th, 2015, ThePackall would get his first world record time of 39:22, mostly due to implementing the strats found during the no warp period, such as the new butt slap routes, faster in-game goal routes, and bridge skip.
Yes! 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 I did it!
A little less than a week later, ThePackall would lower his time down another second with the help of another trick called Eric Skip. Eric burned the drug dealer's car to get back at them for stealing the skateboarding gear from Peralta. Dick move, right? Anyways, they abduct him and you have to get him back to leave New Jersey. By jumping in the water by the bridge, you can death warp in front of the drug dealer's van and skitch it, riding to the end of the block by the dealer's house. But by jumping in a particular 3-frame window, you can skip the second section of the mission where you drive Johnny Turbo's car and chase the dealers. This trick saves about 30 seconds. With these tricks in his repertoire, ThePackall would go on to get several more world record times. A 39:21 on May 19th, 2015, a 39:14 on May 21st, a 39 flat on May 23rd, a 38:35 on May 26th, and a 38:31 on June 4th.
A new world record. It can still go further. I'll still push it further.
On top of these tricks, ThePackall would continuously optimize his gameplay and would lower the world record by more than 50 seconds in 23 days.
Packall and myself were very close, but he would not give up any ground. Any time that I would even get close, he'd be right there streaming again, 6-hour streams every single day, pushing it down and down and down and down. And he would, maybe he'd lose time in New Jersey, but then he would gain it back later on. And then his next run, he would gain that time from New Jersey, and he just kept pushing it down lower and lower. He had probably the most work output I had seen of any Tony Hawk runner. He just kept going and going and going. Anytime I would try and fight back, he would come back and he would be streaming the next day, or he would just be right back in my face again. And he just had the dedication, and he did have the consistency too to really keep the throne of beginner any percent for that long.
I mean, I was a speed bullet to silent. Like, he would get close to me in a number of categories, and I'm like, no, you can't have it. So I just get further away from him. And then he gets closer again. I'm like, no, you can't have it. So I get better times. It was only during that time when I went to basic that I kind of couldn't, I couldn't defend it.
ThePackall had already lowered the world record significantly and was getting better at execution throughout his runs. We said you were going to hear his name a lot, and we aren't even close to being finished yet. Earlier, we explained how butt slaps work and how effective they are at getting air. In Hawaii, the player has to scale the side of the hotel to its roof and do a series of tricks for a skate trick video. For most players, this involves getting to a ledge and climbing a ladder to reach a wire you can grind to the roof. Ladders are the enemy of speedrunning. Using butt slaps, it's possible to launch yourself from street level all the way to the top of the hotel and unlock the final mission for Hawaii significantly faster. This strat was first found by Tony Hawk legend George during a run for Sick Any%. Armed with this trick, ThePackall would go on another run, getting world record after world record after world record after world record. He would lower his time down to a 37:15 on June 25th, 2015.
Yes! 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 It's over! It's finally over!
Every world record brought about improvements. From personal best to personal best, there were no huge time saves. Combo refinement became more frequent. Most runs would use combos that got way more points than was necessary. In a goal that requires 4,000 points, it's overkill to get a combo worth more than 40,000 points. Runners would do the combo math before the run and hit the goals using the fewest and fastest moves possible. On July 1st, ThePackall would get a 37:06. On July 6th, a 37:03. July 7th, a 36:57. July 28th, a 36:48.
Okay, there we go. That's fine. I like that.
He would eventually get a 36:39 on August 8th. It should be of no surprise to anyone that he would be heading towards a 35-minute time. Something was a little different about his 36:01 that he got on August 28th, 2015 though. No new major tricks were implemented between the time of the 37:55 on June 5th and the 36:22 August 13th. Over a minute and a half of time save over the course of a summer almost purely because of optimization and execution. Anyway, a new trick would be found in Moscow that would help ThePackall towards another few world records. In Moscow, you are tasked with dismantling state-run media by doing 360 spine transfers over top the radar station. Usually, up until this point, runners would get 5 720-degree spine transfers to reach the requisite 10 360 spine transfers. However, if you do a butt slap followed by a 720, 360, 360, and 360 as a single combo, the game will think you have done more than you have and allow you to finish the mission early. This helped mitigate mistakes in a section which can be challenging for some at times. He'd get a 35:58 just 2 days later on August 30th.
It's all over! Fuck you! Yes! Yes! Yes!
And he missed the Moscow spine glitch by falling off towards the end and messing up his combo. This would end the summer of ThePackall. He lowered the world record from 39:38 to 35:58 in 77 days. 19 world records in 77 days. Let that sink in. This would not only be the end of a very impressive streak of records, but also the end of world records in 2015. On March 16th, 2016, the world record would be lowered to a 35:42 by, you guessed it, ThePackall.
New world record, everyone.
He saves an extra 16 seconds by getting Moscow spin trick first try, as well as by cleaning up a few suboptimal parts of his run. On May 14th that same year, the time would be lowered again to 35:16, but there was a new trick this time called video skip. After you film the pro skating video for your new skate team, you watch the video as part of the game. Runners up until this point would have to wait until after the video's opening credits rolled to skip the video and get to the last mission of the game. It was discovered though that if you press Ollie on the frame that you touch the final tape on the last Pro Skater challenge, you skip the trigger that starts the video. If you do this, it warps you back to New Jersey, thus skipping the need to watch the video. Armed with this trick, ThePackall would get his 35:16, and for a few months, Thug would not see any new world records. This run was pretty great and was a big deal in the community. Video skip wasn't just hard, there wasn't a consistent setup for it either. Going for it doesn't cost any time, but getting the trick to work was a crapshoot. It was discovered by accident by TK Mala, and getting it in a run was highly unlikely. Tony Hawk Underground would make its debut at Summer Games Done Quick 2016. A runner named Fives would run beginner Indy percent at the marathon. Their personal best going into SGDQ was a 38:30 that they got on May 5th earlier that year. They were about 3 minutes behind the world record by the time the marathon started. In his run, he didn't get Eric skip or video skip, but overall it was still a good run.
And 41 on the dot.
Nice.
Wow, that's a good run.
Yeah, that's really good.
All right, just gotta watch this sick jump that we had
You
before
need to
real
watch
quick.
this footage.
Yeah.
This is good stuff.
I saw a GDQ run of Thug 1 by a guy named Fives, which was in 2016, I believe, and I saw that around the tail end of 2016, so just going into 2017, and I thought it was really cool, so I went into his stream, asked him a few questions. He was really friendly, and it's the same for the whole community, really. They're all really friendly guys, so that's one of the main reasons I started running.
In August later that year, a runner named Pokemon Ace 101 was streaming attempts when he got a pretty decent run. His PB at the time was only a second slower than ThePackall's 3516, so he was definitely good at the game. He was using a new trick called Create a Trick Broken Ass Game, or Catbag. This is how Catbag works. Catbag works in two ways. Created tricks can be written to multiple trick slots, so it's possible to assign one move to up, down, left, or right, grab, or flip. This is useful in the missions where the NPCs call out tricks, as one trick covers the whole list. The second useful thing is that because of the way the game detects specific tricks for goals, if you name the created trick the exact same name as another trick, the game can't tell the difference for goal detection. So instead of having to get special meter and perform a special move, you can do a quick flip trick and clear the goal. With this trick, Pokemon Ace would get a world record time of 35:04 on August 2nd, 2016.
There it is! It's done!
You got it! You did
It's
it!
done!
Yes!
Finally took world record, oh my god.
I didn't know if you were gonna do it. I was watching them delayed. I'm like, holy shit, yeah, you did it. Fuck.
Oh, you did it though. Oh yeah, dude. Nice.
Finally done.
Fucking Slim Jim guy.
It may not look like that much time, but to help put this in perspective, Pokemon Ace did not get video skip in his run, which was a solid 15-second time save in ThePackall's 3516. Silent Laws had never stopped running the game, and had been in or around the top 3 since his world records in 2014. When Pokemon Ace got his 35:04, Silent's personal best was 35:23. A little less than 2 weeks later, Silent Laws would improve his time down to a 35:03, taking the world record by a second. It's worth noting that this run didn't have video skip in it either, and neither would any of the next few runs except for one. The next day, Silent Laws would clean up a few parts of his run and lower the time another few seconds to 34:58. Tricks can lower a time in runs, but execution of these tricks is where real optimization takes place. A couple weeks after Silent Law's 34:58, Pokemon Ace would take the record back with a 34:43 on September 3rd.
34:43. Oh, it's a palindrome. I'm so happy. I got world record back. I did it, Ma.
He was on pace with Silent Law's 34:58 for most of the early part of the run, but eventually pulled further and further away as the game progressed, eventually closing out 15 seconds over the previous time. Some might say Christmas came early for Pokemon Ace, as he would hold on to this record for a few more months. Speaking of Christmas, do you know what happened on actual Christmas Day 2016? ThePackall would get a world record of 34:35, once again using video skip. Video skip on top of Catbag was enough to get ThePackall the record, despite a few mistakes along the way.
Yeah, so I saw back like third or fourth day back home. I was like, I'm playing Thug 1 again. And then like third or fourth day back, I got world record. I'm like, it was on Christmas as well. So it just kind of rubs salt in the wounds.
Yeah.
This world record would be short-lived, as Pokemon Ace would take the record back the very next day with the 34:16.
And 34:16. What? Oh, okay. That's way lower than I thought it was gonna be.
What?
Dude, sub 34 is
Holy shit.
fucking easy.
Yo, good shit, man.
Yay, I did it.
Pokemon Ace would save almost 30 seconds at the end of his run by getting video skip.
Yes! I fucking got it. Yeah, I got vid skip.
It was around this time that a more consistent method of getting it was found by Big Law, which instantly made the trick more accessible.
That's it. That's it. I fucking found how to do video skip consistently. I did it.
I don't know. Big Law just kind of stumbled upon this way of doing it, and he was just like, oh my god, I figured this out. And he just freed us all from, you know, the chains that video skip had on us for so long. And it really, you know, much like Cat Bag, even the playing field for people that couldn't do as many butt slaps, literally everybody, if they timed it right, could do video skip now.
And with the brief interruption on Christmas Day, Pokemon Ace was able to hold on to the world record for another 6 months. In June 2017, ThePackall would take the world record back with a 34:05 on the 7th, and a few days later would lower it again to a 33:51 on the 11th. Both of these runs utilize all of the tricks mentioned previously, along with better execution and combo refinement. They would not be easily beaten, but they would be beaten. A relatively new runner named Rushi was running the game on November 20th, 2017. At the start of 2017, he had a 39:17. By the time October rolled around, he had a 33:59, which was just 8 seconds off world record. Earlier, we mentioned that by doing the Moscow spine glitch a certain way, you could get away with only doing some of them. As it turns out, if you do a butt slap 720, then a butt slap 900, and then a 360, the game counts this as having done 11 spins, despite only having done 6.
Basically, there's a mission in Moscow where you have to do a certain amount of spins over a communication tower. And the amount of spins you have to do, it's like a certain amount of 360s. So you would assume that like a 360 spin would give you 1, and a 720 spin would give you 2, and then, you know, carry on like that. But actually, it's kind of messed up. If you do the same amount of spins in a combo, for some reason the counter like messes up. So if you do like a 720, a 900, and a 360, that should count as like 4 spins or something like that, or like 5 or 6, but it actually counts as 10.
Using this trick, and by playing really well, Rushi was able to take the world record with a time of 33:40. Rushi had improved fairly quickly at the game, and would lower his time in May of 2018, down to a 33:35 on May 20th, and 33:16 on May 26th.
There's people much better than me at skill, but I think consistency is really the main thing. I'm a level above the other Thug 1 runners on, really.
Okay.
And I put in a lot of practice to IL runs as well, so like running levels over and over, just to really ingrain my knowledge of them and get a feel for the places where you can make mistakes and, you know, how to avoid them. So I think that is the biggest thing I can attribute my success to, is just, you know, practicing over and over again and getting consistent as I can.
The runs by this point are optimized. Rushi is really good at execution, and that is where the record stands today. Tony Hawk's Underground has the most players of any Tony Hawk speed game, with beginner any percent being the series' most popular category. Thug 1 also has the most full game runs, almost twice as many as the next most popular game in the series, Thug 2. Tony Hawk may not be the game that comes to people's minds when they hear speedrun. It's not a charming 3D platformer whose graphics have stood the test of time. The game feels clunky at times, and the dialogue seems laughable at others.
Yo, you're unconscious, kid. One more time to lock it down. You bust something gnarly and you'll own this spot.
Having said all that, this is a really fun run to watch. The community who have molded and shaped this game have done so through love for it. It's a pretty well optimized game that requires a fair bit of skill. This is not a speedrun that is a glorified glitch showcase, but it doesn't have to be a quality speed game.